I was doing a film with Burt down in Georgia called Gator.
I'm shooting for a Casablanca, and you know what I'll do when I get my Casablanca?
Smokey and the Bandit earned $126 million in 1977. It beat Star Wars on opening weekend, and hidden in almost every scene are errors that should have buried it. Skid marks from 15, music. Takes visible on the road. Collision. Damage that vanishes between cuts. A hero car so destroyed it had to be pushed into position. The studio thought they had a disaster. Music. They dumped it in 386 southern theaters, expecting it to quietly disappear. Instead, it became the second highest grossing film of the year. The flaws didn't matter. But why? That answer changes everything. Music, you thought you knew about this movie. Hal Needham stepped into Hollywood carrying the weight of 56 broken, music, bones, 2 broken backs, a punctured lung, and more missing teeth than he cared to count. Yet he moved through sets with a kind of fearless ease that made people stare. His life had been stitched together. Music, through stunt jumps, wrecked cars, and hard landings. And every injury seemed to push him closer to something bigger. He had once, music, strapped a rocket onto the back of a GMC pickup and ended the day with a, music, broken back, 6 shattered ribs, 1 punctured lung, and 3 missing teeth. But he still joked about it later. He sometimes even asked camera operators to miss the perfect shot so he could do the stunt again and get paid twice, music. Which said everything about how he survived in an industry that rewarded danger. On the set of The Uneditated in 1969, music, he tried teaching John Wayne how to fake a punch. It embarrassed Wayne in front of the crew. And later that night, the Duke cornered him in a bar, slipped him into a headlock, music, and growled through the moment until tempers settled. They walked out as friends, and that strange bond followed them until Wayne's death. Music, showing how Needham managed to earn respect, even in rooms filled with men who did not respect many people. The spark for Smokey and the Bandit came to him in 1976. On the set of Gator in Georgia. His driver captain, music, left 2 cases of Coors beer in his hotel room, and Nem noticed the maid quietly stealing bottles one by one. He wondered why anyone would risk their job for beer. That curiosity pulled him, music, into a stranger story than he expected. Coors could not legally be sold east of the Mississippi River because it had no preservatives and needed constant refrigeration during transport. In 1974, Time magazine explained that the beer was available in only 11 states. People smuggled it across the country, and there were even stories about cases being flown on Air Force One because it was so sought after. Needham realized that this odd, music, little problem could fuel a whole movie. A cross-country beer run carried the spirit of an outlaw challenge, and he, music, could feel a story forming in his head before he even put pen to paper. He wrote the script, music, as a small B movie with a $1 million budget. Jerry Reed was supposed to star as the Bandit, and it made perfect sense because Reed had already worked with Burt Reynolds in WW and music, the Dixie Dance Kings in 1975, and Gator in 1976. Music, Reed had charm, a strong following in country music, and chemistry with Reynolds that worked well on screen. The story already held familiar pieces. 400 cases, of course. Music had to be hauled from Texarkana to Atlanta in 28 hours for an $80,000 reward, which would equal 322 tattoo do 60 in 2024. But Reed's name alone wasn't enough to convince studios to take a music chance on Needham's first directing job. No one would finance the film unless a major star joined the project. The studios weren't just hesitating. They were shutting doors in Needham's face. Each time he walked in with a script, an idea, and Burt Reynolds's music name attached, executives smiled until Nem added one more detail. He would be the director. After that, conversations fell apart. They didn't believe a stuntman belonged behind a camera. He said later that he had become used to the hemming and hawing before they threw him out. Hollywood saw stuntmen, music, as people who were good at falling, not storytelling. And the bias was so deep that Nem almost gave up trying to pull the film into music existence. Then, the turning point came from inside his own home. Burt Reynolds was living with him after Needham's wife had kicked him out. Needham handed over the script, waited through the night, and braced himself, music, for whatever Reynolds had to say. The next morning, Reynolds told him the dialogue was the worst he had ever read. Music. But he also said the idea worked and offered something Needham never dared ask for. If Needham could take Reynolds's music, star power, and find someone willing to put up the money, Needham could direct the film. That promise carried real weight. Universal finally agreed to finance Smokey and the Bandit for $5,300,000. But only 2 days before filming in 1977, the studio sent a man to cut the budget by $1 million. Reynolds' salary alone was $1 million. Music, which left Nem with $3,300,000 to shoot the whole picture. Needham and assistant, music, director David Hamburger stayed awake for 30 straight hours rebuilding the shooting plan, turning shrinking resources into new music, ways to keep the movie alive. Jerry Reed felt the effects of all these changes more directly than anyone else. He had been prepared to carry the movie as the Bandit, but once Reynolds stepped in, Reed was shifted into the role of Snowman, the truck driver moving the illegal beer. The story changed shape around the new casting. Although Reed handled the shift with the same calm ease he brought into every performance. Years later, he finally, music, played the Bandit in Smokey and the Bandit Part 3 in 1983, though the movie received far less enthusiasm. Music. Reed's steady presence in the original remained the version people remembered. Music, the one that helped define the tone of the film. Reynolds might have joined the production, but he never softened his opinion of the script. He told Nem again that the dialogue was terrible. Still, he agreed to make the film because he, music, believed in Needham. Since the script felt too stiff, Reynolds suggested they improvise. Sally Field later said that almost the music entire film was improvised by the cast, which explained why the humor felt loose and natural. The scenes people loved most grew out of moments on set, music, rather than anything written on Needham's legal pads. Many things changed as Nem reworked the script. Richard Boone had once been considered for the role of Sheriff Buford T. Justice. Early drafts used different names for nearly everyone. Sally Field's character Carrie was originally named Kate. Big Enos and Little Enos were Kyle and Dickie. Even the reward for the beer run changed from a new truck to $80,000 in cash. Jackie Gleason eventually took control of the sheriff role and shaped it into something unforgettable. His timing, his lines, and even the creation of his on-screen son, Jr. came from his own suggestions. Gleason's improvisation flowed easily through music, the film, giving the antagonist a strange charm that balanced the bandits' music. Cool swagger. Sally Field almost wasn't part of the film at all. She read the script and thought it had little substance, and in her memoir, she said she wanted to skip it entirely. She was trying to rebuild her career as a serious actress and feared the movie would make her seem unserious again. She had already turned down television roles for 3 years, music, to reshape her image. But Reynolds saw something in her that the studio didn't. He insisted music, she was perfect for the role and promised they could shape the material through improvisation. Field's agent also reminded her she needed a strong movie role on her resume. She agreed at last, not knowing it would lead to a romance with Reynolds that began during filming. In August 1976, Universal Pictures Music hesitated because they didn't see her as glamorous enough. They wanted someone more traditionally, music, attractive. Someone they believed could draw bigger crowds. Reynolds fought them on it until they backed down. He later admitted he had always admired her work on The Flying Nun and felt she would bring heart to the film. Their on-screen chemistry was real because their relationship was real. Even though years down the road, they fell out of touch and didn't speak music for more than 30 years before Reynolds' death in 2018, when the budget cuts slammed into production just 48 hours before filming began. Everything fell apart at once. The movie had, music, been approved at $5,300,000. Then suddenly dropped to $4,300,000. With Reynolds already earning $1 million. Neem had only $3,300,000, music, left for the entire shoot. Crew members had been hired, locations chosen, schedules printed, and suddenly all of it had to be rebuilt. Needham and Hamburger worked through exhaustion, trying to keep the music film from slipping through their fingers. The situation with the cars made everything music even harder. Pontiac supplied for 1977 Trans Am Special Edition models and 2 Lehman sedans, but the shoot in Georgia destroyed them. The Trans Ams were actually 1976 models, fitted with 455 cubic music inch engines, and the high-speed chases and jumps tore them apart. The jump over the Mulberry Bridge used music, a booster rocket similar to Evil Convol's Snake River Canyon attempt, and the car didn't survive the landing. By the end, 3 cars were gone completely, and the 4th was falling apart piece by piece. As filming, music, continued, the remaining Trans Am could barely move. The crew patched it with duct tape, spare parts from wrecked cars, And quick. Coats of paint so it looked good enough. For each shot. In the final scenes, the hero car wouldn't even start. Music. Crew members pushed it into place while the camera rolled. Sheriff Justice's cruiser wasn't in any better shape, and the constant music swapping of parts created strange moments that made it into the final cut. A black fender appeared, disappeared, then returned. Again. Collision damage vanished between scenes. Music. Even the Trans Am's odometer showed 108.9. Me early in the film and showed the same reading later, even though they were supposed to have traveled hundreds of miles. The production never had time to fix any of music. This Universal kept cutting resources while they filmed, reducing crew members and music, speeding up the schedule. Scenes had to be shot once or not at all. Locations were reused again and again. Everyone worked under heavy Georgia heat with no room for mistakes. Music, the editing team received footage too quickly and too inconsistently to correct continuity. Music problems. So many errors stayed in the final product. When Smokey and the Bandit was finished, Universal Pictures thought they had a music disaster on their hands. They rolled the film out with confidence at Radio City Music Hall in New York City, music, expecting applause and buzz. Instead, the premiere landed flat. Studio executives walked away, convinced they were staring at a massive failure. With almost no faith left, they made one last desperate move. They quietly pushed Music, the movie, into the southern United States only, opening it in just 386 music theaters below the Mason-Dixon line over Memorial Day weekend in 1977. In Hollywood terms, music, that kind of release usually meant a slow death. But something strange happened almost immediately. By the Tuesday after that holiday weekend, the film had already pulled in more than 2.6 music million. Word spread fast. Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates just like this.